There's been a lot of issues with the employer and its union busting tactics, but these sisters have stayed strong and have continued to fight. They have won a very important victory that is going to affect not just them, but workers everywhere.
Some good news we had in the last couple of weeks. We talked to y'all about the story of IATSE Local 798. Those are wig and makeup artists for the Atlanta Opera. On June the 13th, the NLRB sided with Adams Brothers and Sisters in the Stagehands Union Local 798 in declaring that they do, in fact, work for the Atlanta Opera and are not independent contractors, as the employer tried to assert. This is obviously kind of it's a small win in that, you know, they still haven't won their contract. They haven't got raises associated with their organization yet. But it is still a win in the fight to end worker misclassification, which keeps thousands of workers every year from the benefits and protections that they are entitled to just by virtue of being an employee. You know, you get certain things when you're an employee that you don't get if you're an independent contractor. And in cases where that distinction is correctly defined, in cases where it is true that you are an independent contractor, that makes sense. It makes sense that you're not going to get some of these benefits that are associated with employment. But if you are a worker that is called, quote unquote, an independent contractor, and yet the only business that you sell your labor to is there's one business, and you don't get to set the terms and conditions that you work for. You don't get to decide, you know, all sorts of stuff. If this, you know, company that you're so-called contracting with, they end up setting all the terms and conditions of everything of your employment, then you're not an independent contractor, and you do deserve these other things that accompany your status as an employee. You know, benefits like Social Security, paying into Social Security, and your employer paying into Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, things like that. That's all really important. And when workers are misclassified, it relieves employers of a lot of the duties that they have, that you know, to the people that make their business possible. Right. So to give you just a little bit more detail about the case, what the NLRB did was overrule the Trump administration's NLRB, the Trump board, their decision in the Super Shuttle Dallas-Fort Worth case in 2019. And they returned to the standard for determining employment status that was laid out by the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, in 2014 in the FedEx 2 case. So these considerations for determining employment are the following: the extent of control which, by the agreement, the employer may exercise over the details of work, the whether or not the one employed is engaged in a distinct occupation or business, the kind of occupation with reference to whether in the locality the work is usually done under the direction of the employer or by a specialist without supervision, the skill required in the particular occupation, whether the employer or the workman supplies the instrumentalities, the tools, and the place of work for the person doing the work, the length of time for which the person is employed, the method of payment, whether by time or by the job, and whether or not the work is part of the regular business of the employer. In answering those are the criteria by which the board has decided to revert back to and say, these are the things that we need to consider in determining whether or not a person is an independent contractor. Previously, under the Trump board in 2019, they decided that there was only one factor that was really important, and that was the theoretical opportunity for entrepreneurialism. Wow. Didn't even have to be actual opportunity. It was just theoretical opportunity. And none of these other things were really considered. They said that entrepreneurial opportunity was the, quote, animating factor in decisions regarding independent contractor, which is totally, without precedent. It deviates from what the Supreme Court itself has actually said on the question of independent contractor status, deviates from common law, from, all the totally, it's just a completely different definition that they really kind of pulled out of their bum. So in answering those questions, instead of just the one, the board found that these stylists do not choose where and when they will work. That does not sound very independent to me. They have very little independent authority over the details of their work. They do not supply the equipment or tools. Their work is part of the employer's regular business. They do not render services to the employer as independent businesses. And they enjoy no entrepreneurial opportunity and take on no risk in their work for the employer. And that last point is actually really kind of pretty interesting, because the remaining Trump appointee on the board said that, okay, while I disagree with overturning the Super Shuttle decision, it is still, in fact, the case that these people are workers. They're not independent contractors. So the Atlanta Opera couldn't even get, the Trump freaks on board with their with their their interest in taking away the rights that these people have as employees. They couldn't even get the Trump appointee on board with that. So that's a pretty kind of interesting part of the case. So congrats to these workers, and looking forward to a first contract for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sending my love and solidarity to these sisters out here in Atlanta. Just so y'all know, they have been fighting for this union for over 2 years now. They originally fought to get this representation by IATSE 798 in the spring of 2021. But the Atlanta Opera has unleashed a vicious union-busting campaign over the past couple of years that includes going to the National Labor Relations Board to try to prevent them from having union representation by this argument that they're independent contractors. Back in March of this year, the NLRB actually unsealed and counted the ballots, and wouldn't you know it, they unanimously voted to join the union, IATSE 798. So these sisters have fought as primarily, if not entirely, black women who work in this position at the Atlanta Opera, the hairstyling and makeup artist. And so, there's been a lot of issues with the employer and its union busting tactics, but it seems like these sisters have stayed strong and have continued to fight. And now they have won a very important victory at the labor board that is going to affect not just them, but workers everywhere in this country. And I think it's really a big deal. And I really am proud of them. I'm proud of the work they've done. Gotten a chance to at least talk with a little bit of them, and I'm just really impressed. And so sending my love and solidarity as they continue this struggle. And yes, hopefully receive a great first contract very, very soon. Do encourage folks, if you haven't already, you can sign a petition. I'll drop that in the chat. I'll drop the petition in the chat so you can sign up and stay in tune with this campaign, because obviously they still need to build pressure on the Atlanta Opera to negotiate a first contract.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.